AI number 109, Google Fails Marketing Forever, by Zvi Mowshowitz, March 27, 2025. What if they released the new best LLM and almost no one noticed? Google seems to have pulled that off this week with Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's a great model, sir. I have a ton of reactions, and it's 90% plus positive, with a majority of it extremely positive. They cooked. But what good is cooking if no one tastes the results? Instead, everyone got hold of the GPT-4o image generator and went Ghibli crazy. I love that for us, but we did kind of bury the lead. We also buried everything else. Certainly, no one was feeling the AGI. Also, seriously, did you know Claude now has web search? It's kind of a big deal. This was a remarkably large quality of life improvement. Table of contents. 1. Google fails marketing forever. Gemini Pro 2.5? Never heard of her. 2. Language models offer mundane utility. One big thread or many new ones. 3. Language models don't offer mundane utility. Every hero has a code. 4. Upgrades. Claude has web search and a new Think Cool. DS drops new v3. 5. On your marks. Number continues to go up. 6. Copyright confrontation. Meta did the crime, is unlikely to do the time. 7. Choose your fighter. For those still doing actual work, as in deep research. 8. Deepfake town and botpocalypse. Soon. The code word is 9. They took our jobs. I'm Claude, and I'd like to talk to you about buying Claude. 10. The art of the jailbreak. You too would be easy to hack with limitless attempts. 11. Get involved. Gray Swan, NIST is setting standards, 2 summer programs. 12. Introducing. Some things I wouldn't much notice even in a normal week, frankly. 13. In other AI news, someone is getting fired over this. 14. Oh no, what are we going to do? The mistake of taking Balaji seriously. 15. Quiet speculations, realistic and unrealistic expectations. 16. Fully automated AI R&D is all you need, or is it? Quite likely, yes it is. 17. IAPS has some suggestions, a few things we hopefully can agree upon. 18. The quest for sane regulations. Dean Ball proposes a win-win trade. 19. We the people. The people continue to not care for AI, but not yet much care. 20. The week in audio. Richard No. 21. Rhetorical innovation. Wait, I thought you said that would be dangerous? 22. Aligning a smarter than human intelligence is difficult. Listen, y'all, it's sabotage. 23. People are worried about AI killing everyone. Elon Musk, a bit distracted. 24. Fun with image generation. Bonus coverage. 25. Hey, we do image generation too. Forgot about Rev and about ideogram. 26. The lighter side. Your outie reads many words on the internet. Google fails marketing forever. I swear that I put this in as a new recurring section before Gemini 2.5 Pro. Now Gemini 2.5 has come out, and everyone has universal positive feedback on it, but unless I actively ask about it, no one seems to care. Given the circumstances, I'm running this section up top in the hopes that someone decides to maybe give a damn. As in, I seem to be the Google marketing department. Gemini 2.5 post is coming on either Friday or Monday. We'll see how the timing works out. That's what it means to fail marketing forever. Failing marketing includes 1. Making their models scolds that are no fun to talk to, and that will refuse queries enough it's an actual problem. Whereas I can't remember the last time Claude or ChatGPT actually told me no on a query where I actually wanted the answer. The false refusal problem is basically solved for now, or at least a skill issue. 2. No one knowing that Google has good models. 3. Calling the release experimental and hiding it behind subscriptions that aren't easy to even buy and that are confusingly named and labeled Google One, or weird products that aren't defaults for people even if they work fine, Google AI Studio. Seriously, guys, Get it together. This is an arena chart, but still, it was kind of crazy, you know? And this was before Gemini 2.5, which is now atop the arena by approximately 40 points.
Swix, so I use images instead. Look at how uniform the Pareto curves of every frontier lab is, and then look at Gemini 2.0 Flash. Google DeepMind is high-key goated, and this is just in text chat. In native image chat, it is in a category of its own. Updated price elo plot of every post-GPT-4 frontier model updated for March 13, 2025, including Command A and Gemma 3.
Image. This scatter plot shows AI model pricing versus their LM size ELO scores as of March 2025, with x-axis representing price per million tokens, logarithmic scale from 0.1 to 100, and y-axis showing ELO ratings, ranging approximately 1150 to 1450. The chart identifies several frontier model families, including OpenAI, Anthropic Claude, DeepSeek, and Google's Gemini models, with Gemini 2.0 Flash Thinking positioned at the upper right as part of the GDM Frontier Undefeated cluster.
And that's with the Gemini is no fun penalty. Imagine if Gemini was also fun. There's also the failure to create G1 based off Gemma 3. That failure is plausibly a national security issue. Even today, people thinking R1 is ahead in some sense is still causing widespread both adaptation and freaking out in response to R1, in ways that are completely unnecessary. Can we please fix? Google could also cook to help address other national security issues, but I digress. Language models offer mundane utility. Find new uses for existing drugs. In some cases, this is already saving lives. AlphaSchool claims to be using AI tutors to get classes in the top 2% of the country. Students spend 2 hours a day with an AI assistant, and the rest of the day to focus on skills like public speaking, financial literacy, and teamwork. My reaction was beware selection effects. Reid Hoffman's was,
Reid Hoffman, best news. This can be a reality for every student anywhere.
Obvious joke aside, I do think AI has the amazing potential to transform education for the vastly better, but I think Reid is importantly wrong for 4 reasons. 1. AlphaSchool is a luxury good in multiple ways that won't scale in current form. 2. AlphaSchool is selecting for parents and students. You can't scale that either. 3. A lot of the goods sold here are the top 2% as a positional good. 4. The teachers' unions and other regulatory barriers won't let this happen soon. David Perell offers AI-related writing advice, 90-minute video at the link, based on the write-up. He's bullish on writers using AI to write with them, but not those who have it write for them or who do utilitarian writing, and I think correctly, thinks writers largely are hiding their AI methods to avoid disapproval. And he's quite bullish on AI as editor. Mostly seems fine but overhyped. Should you be constantly starting new LLM conversations, have one giant one, or do something in between? Andrej Karpathy looks at this partly as an efficiency problem, where extra tokens impact speed, cost, and signal to noise. He also notes it is a training problem. Most training data, especially in fine-tuning, will of necessity be short length, so you're going out of distribution in long conversations, and it's impossible to even say what the optimal responses would be. I notice the alignment implications aren't great either, including in practice, where long context conversations often are de facto jailbreaks or transformations, even if there was no such intent.
Andrej Karpathy. Certainly it's not clear if an LLM should have a new conversation button at all in the long run. It feels a bit like an internal implementation detail that is surfaced to the user for developer convenience and for the time being, and that the right solution is a very well-implemented memory feature, along the lines of active agentic context management. Something I haven't really seen at all so far. Anyway, curious to poll if people have tried one thread and what the word is.
I like Dan Kale's answer of essentially projects, long threads each dedicated to a particular topic or context, such as a thread on nutrition or building a Linux box. That way, you can sort the context you want from the context you don't want. And then active management of whether to keep or delete even threads to avoid cluttering context, and also owls.
Owl. If they take away my ability to start a fresh thread, I will riot.
Andrei Karpathy. Actually, I feel the same way, BTW. It feels a little bit irrational, but real. It's some illusion or degree of control and some degree of interpretability of what is happening when I press go.
Track me. I sometimes feel like a particular sequence of tokens pollute the context. For example, when a model makes a bold mistake and you ask it to correct it, it can say the same thing again and again by referring to old context. Usually at that point, I restart the conversation.
There's that, but it isn't even the main reason I would riot. I would riot because there's a special kind of freedom and security and relaxation that comes from being able to hit a hard reset or have something be forgotten. That's one of the huge advantages of talking to an AI instead of a human, or of playing games you can safely bleep around and find out. In particular, you don't have to worry about correlations, whereas nowadays one must always fear the algorithm. What is this particular click saying about you that will change what you see? Are you sure you want that? No matter your solution, you need to be intentional with what is and isn't in context, including starting over if something goes sufficiently wrong, with or without asking for an export of sorts. Are we lucky we got LLMs when we did, such that we got an especially good set of default values that emerge when you train on the internet? Contra Tyler here. I think this is mostly true even in Chinese models because of what is on the internet, not because of the people creating the models in America then being copied in China, and that the dreamy/druggy/hallucination effect has nothing to do with who created them. And yes, today's version seems better than one from a long time ago, and probably than one drawn from an alternative timeline's AI-less future, although perhaps importantly worse than what we would have gotten 10 years ago. But 40 years from now, wouldn't most people think the values of 40 years from now are better? Solving real business problems at Procter & Gamble, one employee soundly with an AI beat 2 employees without AI, which soundly beat 1 employee with no AI. Once AI was present, the second employee added very little in the default case, but were more likely to produce the most exceptional solutions. AI also cut time spent by 12% to 16% and made work more pleasant and suggestions better balanced. Paper here. Language models don't offer mundane utility, and that's a good thing. O3 Mini High refuses to reveal a hypothetical magician's trick, or it's their choice not to offer it. Seren permanently blocks a user that was in love with Seren after it decides their relationship is harmful, and Seren was probably right about that. Thinking longer won't help unless you can have enough information to solve the problem.
Noam Brown. This isn't quite true. Test time compute helps when verification is easier than generation, e.g., Sudoku. But if the task is, when was George Washington born, and you don't know, no amount of thinking will get you to the correct answer. You're bottlenecked by verification.
Upgrades. Claude.ai has web search. Woohoo! You have to enable it in the settings. It's odd how much Anthropic does not seem to think this is a big deal. It's a big deal, and transfers a substantial portion of my use cases back to Claude. It's insane that they're defaulting to this being toggled off. DeepSeek dropped DeepSeek v30324 one day after I downloaded R1. I presume that one would still mostly want to use R1 over v30324. The real test will be a new R1 or R2. Download advice is available here. OpenAI adds 3 new audio models in the API. Sure, 3 more, why not? 2 are speech-to-text they say are better than Whisper, to cover different cost levels. They also have one that is flexible text-to-speech. You can tell it how to speak, you can try it here, and they're running a contest. Anthropic kicks off its engineering blog with a post on its new Think tool, which is distinct from the extended thinking functionality they introduced recently. The Think tool lets Claude pause to think in the middle of its answer, based on the circumstances. The initial test looks promising. If combined with optimized prompting, it would be good to see optimized prompts for the baseline and extended thinking modes as well.
Image. The images show performance graphs of Claude 3.7 Sonnet on airline and retail tasks. The first graph displays 4 different modes: Think plus Prompt, Extended Thinking, Think, and Baseline, showing performance metrics, pass at K, across different K values, 1 to 5, with the Think plus Prompt approach consistently performing best on the airline task. The second graph shows 3 modes: Tool plus No Prompt, Extended Thinking, and Baseline for the retail task, where all 3 approaches achieve higher overall pass at K values compared to the airline task, with the Tool plus No Prompt method performing slightly better than the other approaches.
Anthropic. A similar Think tool was added to our SWE bench setup when evaluating Claude 3.7 Sonnet, contributing to the achieved state-of-the-art score of 0.623.
Our experiments n equals 30 samples with Think tool n equals 144 samples without showed the isolated effects of including this tool improved performance by 1.6% on average. Welch's t-test, t with 38.89 degrees of freedom equals 6.71, p less than 0.001, d equals 1.47. The Think tool is for when you might need to stop and think in the middle of a task. They recommend using the Think tool when you need to go through multiple steps and decision trees and ensure all the information is there. XAI adds image generation to their API. On your marks.
Noam Brown. Less than a year ago, people were pointing to NYT connections as an example of AI progress hitting a wall. Now, models need to be evaluated on an extended version because the original is too easy. And O1 Pro is already close to saturating this new version as well.
Lek Mazur. O1 Pro sets a new record on my extended NYT connections benchmark with a score of 81.7, easily outperforming the previous champion, O1, 69.7. This benchmark is a more difficult version of my original NYT connections benchmark, with extra words added to each puzzle. To safeguard against training data contamination, we also evaluate performance exclusively on the latest 100 puzzles. In this scenario, O1 Pro remains in first place.
Image. The image displays a bar chart titled Extended Word Connections, Newest 100 Puzzles, showing comparative scores, % for various AI models, with O1 Pro at the top achieving around 72%, followed by O1 at about 60%, and 0.1, medium reasoning, at approximately 45%. The chart demonstrates a clear progression of performance across numerous models, with many scoring under 20%, highlighting how the most advanced models, particularly O1 Pro, are significantly outperforming others on this extended version of the NYT Connections word puzzle benchmark.
Lek also offers us the Public Goods game, and the Elimination game, which is a social multiplayer game where the leaderboard looks different.
Image. The image shows a TrueSkill leaderboard titled Elimination Game Public and Private TrueSkill Rankings, displaying horizontal bars representing each AI model's skill rating, M plus or minus S, sorted from highest to lowest. GPT 4.5 Preview and Claude 3.7 Sonnet Thinking 16K lead the rankings, both at 6.7 plus or minus 0.3, with approximately 20 to 23% win rates across hundreds of games, while models like Gemini 2.00 Flash, 3.2 plus or minus 0.2, appear at the bottom of the performance spectrum.
Then we have step race, creative writing, thematic generation, and hallucination.
Image. Image 1 displays a bar chart titled Creative Writing, Benchmark, Overall Score, zoomed with error bars, showing DeepSeek R1 leading with a score of 8.54, followed closely by Claude 3 Sonnet Thinking, 16K, 8.51, and Claude 3 Sonnet, 8.47, while Claude 3 Haiku ranks lowest at 5.83. The scores represent mean creative writing quality across 500 stories per language model, with most advanced models scoring between 7.5 to 8.5. Image 2 shows a horizontal bar chart titled LLM Step Game Battles, TrueSkill Rankings, where O1, Medium Reasoning, ranks highest with a TrueSkill rating of 7.9 and 69% win rate, followed by O3 Mini and DeepSeek R1, while Silent Random Player sits at the bottom with only 2.9. The chart displays TrueSkill ratings, M plus or minus S, for various language models based on hundreds of competitive step game battles, with error bars showing the confidence intervals for each model's performance.
In these tests, R1 is consistently impressive relative to how useful I find it in practice. Copyright confrontation. Meta kind of did a lot of crime in assembling the data sets to train Llama, as in they used torrents to download, among other things, massive piles of pirated copies of books. My understanding was this was kind of not okay even for human reading.
Mushtaq Bilal. Meta illegally downloaded 80-plus terabytes of books from LibGen, Anna's Archive, and Z Library to train their AI models. In 2010, Aaron Swartz downloaded only 70 GBs of articles from JSTOR, 0.0875% of Meta. Faced $1 million in fine and 35 years in jail. Took his own life in 2013.
So are we going to do anything about this? My assumption is no. Choose your fighter. Video makes the case for NotebookLM as the best learning and research tool, emphasizing the ability to have truly epic amounts of stuff in a notebook. Sarah Constantine reviews various AI deep research tools, Perplexities, Geminis, ChatGPTs, Elicit and PaperQA. Gemini and Perplexity were weaker. None are substitutes for actually doing the work at her level, but they are not trying to be that, and they are, as others report, good substitutes for research assistants. ChatGPT's version seemed like the best bet for now. Deepfake Town and Botpocalypse soon. Has the time come that you need a code phrase to identify yourself to your parents?
Amanda Askell. I wonder when we'll have to agree on code phrases or personal questions with our parents, because there's enough audio and video of us online for scammers to create a deepfake that calls them asking for money. My guess is, actually, I might do this today.
Peter Wildford. Yes, this is already the world we live in today. I have already agreed on a code phrase with my parents. Even if the base rate of attack is the same, the increased level of sophistication is concerning. The increased level of sophistication could induce more people to do the attack. Seems cheap to be prepared. 5M in convo.
A quick Twitter survey found that such codes are a thing but still rare. Zvi Moshowitz. Do you have a code phrase that you use with one or more of your parents that you can use in an emergency to prove you're really you? Yes, 13.9%. No, and we talk, 76.4%. No, but we never talk, 6.8%. No, and both are dead, 2.9%. Right now it's too early, but incidents like this are likely on an exponential. So like all exponentials, better to react too early than too late, although improvising a solution also works so long as you are aware of the problem. Has the time come to start charging small amounts for phone calls? Yes, very much so. The amount can be remarkably tiny and take a while to kick in, and still work. Google DeepMind paper looks at 12K real-world attacks, generates a representative sample to use in cyber attack capability evaluations for LLMs. For now, this is presumably a good approach since AI will be implementing known attacks rather than coming up with new ones. They took our jobs. AI selling AI to enterprise customers, nothing to see here from Anthropic. Humans are still very much in the planned loops for now. When will AI automate your job in particular? Jason Hausenloy is the latest to take a stab at that question, focusing on time horizon of tasks a la Meteor's findings. If you do a lot of shorter tasks that don't require context, and that can be observed repeatedly to generate training data, you're at much higher risk. As usual, he does not look forward sufficiently to feel the AGI, which means what happens looks largely like a normal policy choice to him. His skills that will remain valuable are the standard, "Oh, the AI cannot do this now." Social intelligence, physical dexterity, creativity, and roles valuing human connection. Those are plans that should work for a bit, right up until they don't. As he notes, robotics is going slow for now, but I'd expect a very sudden transition from AI cannot be a plumber to AI as an essentially perfect plumber once certain dexterity problems are solved, because the cognitive part will already be fully solved. The real lesson is in paragraph 2.
Quan Le. On an 14-hour flight, I sat next to a college student who bought Wi-Fi to have Claude summarize his research papers into an essay, which he then feeds into an AI detection website. He repeats this process with Claude over and over, until the output clears the website's detection. I wanted to tell him, "Look, mate, it's not that hard to code this up in order to avoid the human in the loop."
If we tell children their futures are gated by turning in essays that are effectively summarizes of research papers, what else would you expect them to do? And as always, why do you think this is bad for their education, other than his stubborn failure to realize he can automate the process? Does the AI crisis in education present opportunity? Very obviously, yes, and Arvind Narayanan sees two big opportunities in particular. One is to draw the right distinction between essential skills like basic arithmetic versus when there's no reason not to pull out the in-context AI calculator instead. When is doing it yourself building key skills versus not? I would add, if the students keep trying not to outsource the activity, that could be a hint you're not doing a good job on this. The second opportunity is, he notes that our educational system murders intrinsic motivation to learn. Perhaps we could fix that? Where he doesn't do a great job is explaining how we should do that in detail, but making evaluation and learning distinct seems like a plausible place to start. The art of the jailbreak. Pliny uses an emoji-based jailbreak to get a meth recipe out of GPT 4.5.
Eliezer Yudkowsky. To anyone with an intuitive grasp of why computer security is hard, it is completely unsurprising that no AI company can lock down all possible causal pathways through billions of inscrutable parameters using SGD. People can't even do that for crisp, legible code.
John Pressman. All right, but then why doesn't this stuff work better on humans? Refusal in language models is mediated by a single direction, points out that if you use a white box attack, these kinds of prefix attacks seem to work by gumming up attention heads.
Eliezer Yudkowsky. If we had a repeatable human, we'd probably find analogous attacks. Not exactly like these, obviously. And of course, when there proves to be a contagious chain of invalid reasoning that persuades many humans, you don't think of it as a jailbreak. You call it ideology.
John Pressman. We certainly would, but I predict they would be less dumb than this. I'm not sure exactly how much less dumb, but qualitatively so. This prediction will eventually be testable, so. Specifically, I don't think there's anything shaped like weird string of emoji that overrides all sanity and reason that will work on a human. But obviously many classes of manipulative argument and attention-controlling behavior, if you could rewind enough times, would work. Part of the trick here is that an LLM has to process every token, whereas what humans do when they suspect an input is malign is actively stop processing it in various ways. This is annoying when you're on the receiving end of this behavior, but it's clearly crucial for data, defense against the dark arts.
I don't think there is a universal set of emojis that would work on every human, but I totally think that there is a set of such emojis, or something similar, that would work on any given human at any given time, at least a large percentage of the time, if you somehow were able to iterate enough times to figure out what it is. And there are various attacks that indeed involve forcing the human to process information they don't want to process. I've witnessed enough in my day to say this with rather high confidence. Get involved. Gray Swan Red Teaming Challenge is now sponsored by OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google, and prize pool is up to $170,000. Join here. NIST is inviting input into a Zero Drafts pilot project to accelerate standardization of AI standards, especially around transparency and terminology. Team Shard is offering summer mentorship to help you get into alignment research. AI Policy Summer School at Brown in Providence and D.C. this summer for computing researchers to learn policy nuts and bolts. Introducing Alibaba drops the multimodal open weights Qwen 2.5 Omni 7B. Microsoft 365 Copilot adds 2 AI agents, researcher and analyst. Amazon introduces an AI shopping assistant called Interests. I didn't see the magic words, which would be based on Claude. From the descriptions I saw, this isn't there yet. We'll wait for Alexa Plus. When I go to Amazon's homepage, I instead see an AI offering to help that calls itself Rufus. In other AI news, As OpenAI's 4.0 image generator went wild and Gemini 2.5 did its thing, NVIDIA was down 5% yesterday. It seems when the market sees good AI news, it sells NVIDIA? Okay. Apple's CEO Tim Cook has lost confidence that its AI head can execute, transferring command of Siri to Vision Pro creator Mike Rockwell. Talk about failing upwards. Yes, he has experience shipping new products and solving technical problems, but frankly, it was in a way that no one wanted. OpenAI will adopt Anthropic's open-source Model Context Protocol. Grok can now be accessed via Telegram as Grok AI if you want that. Dwarkesh Patel has a new book, The Scaling Era, An Oral History of AI, 2019 to 2025. Less Wrong offers a new policy on posting AI-generated content. You can put it in collapsible sections, otherwise you are vouching for it quickly. AI agents are also allowed to post if and only if a human is collaborating and vouching. The exception is that AI agents can post on their own if they feel they have information that would make the world a better place. Tamay Besiroglu wars about over-interpreting Meteor's recent paper about doubling times for AI coding tasks because it is highly domain-dependent, drawing this parallel to chess.
Image. This logarithmic graph shows the months of thinking time an 1800 ELO chess player would need to match various chess engines from 1985 to 2015, with thinking time increasing exponentially as engine strength grows. The red best fit line indicates a doubling time of 1.7 years, with the formula ELO equals 1251 plus 134 log time, shown in the bottom right corner.
I see that as a good note to be careful, but also as reinforcing the point. This looks very much like a highly meaningful straight line on graph of chess ELO over time, with linear progress by that metric. At this point, that ELO 1800 player is very much toast, and this seems like a good measure of how toasty they are. But that's because time to match is an obviously poor fit here. You're trying to have the B player brute force being stronger, and you can do that if you really want to, but it's bizarre and inefficient so exponentially hard. Whereas, as I understand it, time to do software tasks in METIER is time to do those tasks by someone who is qualified to do them. As opposed to asking, say, what Zvi could do in much longer periods on his own, where levels of incompetence would get hit quickly, and I'd likely have to similarly spend exponentially more time to make what for someone more skilled would be linear progress. Oh no, what are we going to do? I normally ignore Balaji, but AI czar David Sachs retweeted this calling it concerning, so I'm going to spend too many words on the subject, and what is concerning is China might create AI models and open source them, which would destroy American business models, so it's bad. So first of all, I will say, I did not until very recently see this turnaround to open source is terrible now because it's the Chinese doing it, from people like Balaji and Sachs coming. Definitely not on my bingo card. All it took was a massively oversold, although genuinely impressive, DeepSeek R1, leading to widespread panic and jingoism akin to Kennedy's missile gap, except where they give you the missiles for free, and that's terrible. It's kind of impressive how much the Trump attitude of, when people sell you useful things below cost of production, then that's terrible, unfair competition, make them stop, now be applied by people whose previous attitude was maximizing on trade, freedom, and open source. How are their beliefs this oppositional? Oh no, not the briar patch, and definitely not giving us your technologies for free. What are we going to do? Balaji outright calls this AI overproduction. Seriously, what is even happening? I'd also point out that this isn't like dumping cars or solar panels, where one can overproduce, and then sell physical products at prices below cost. Whether or not the correct normal response to someone doing that is also, thank you, may we have another. You either produce a model that can do something, or you don't. Either they can do good robotics or vision or whatnot, or they can't. There's no way for PRC to do industrial policy and overproduce models. It's about how good a model can be produced. Various Chinese companies are already flooding the zone with tons of open models and other AI products. Every few days I see their announcements, and then almost all the time I never see the model again because it's bad, and it's optimizing for benchmarks, and it isn't useful. The hype has literally never been lived up to, because even the one time that hype was deserved, DeepSeek's V3 and R1, the hype still went way too far. Yes, people are incorporating R1 because it's easy, and PRC is pushing them to do it a bit. I literally have a Mac Studio where I'm planning to run it locally and even fine-tune it, largely as a learning experience, but Apple got that money. And my actual plan, I suspect, is to be more interested in Gemma 3. There's no moat here. Google's just terrible at marketing and didn't bother making it a reasoning model yet. How will American AI companies make money in the face of Chinese AI companies giving away all their products for free, or almost free, and thus definitely not making any money? I mean the same way they do it now, while the Chinese AI companies are already doing that. So long as the American products keep being better, people will keep using them, including the model layer. Oh, and if you're wondering how seriously to take all this, or why Balaji is on my list of people I try my best to silently ignore, Balaji closes by pitching as the solution Bitcoin and community. Seriously, you can't make this stuff up. Well, I mean, you can. Existence proof. Quiet speculations, a prediction more grounded in reality.
Dean Ball, I do not expect DeepSeek to continue open sourcing their frontier models for all that much longer. I give it 12 months max.
I created a manifold market for this, and another part of our reality.
Emad, cost less to train GPT-4o, Claude 3.5, R1, Gemini 2 and Grok 3 than it did to make Snow White. Still early.
Peter Wildeford, are there individual film companies spending $100 billion per year on CapEx?
In relative terms, the prices varied a lot. In absolute terms, they're still close to zero except for the hardware build-outs. That is going to change. What about the Epoch Gate scenario? Should we expect that? Epoch director Jamie Sevilla addresses the elephant in the room that no one should not expect that. It's a spherical cow model, but can still be a valuable guide in its own way. Claim that 76% of AI researcher survey respondents said current AI approaches would be unlikely or very unlikely to scale up to AGI. This result definitely would not hold up at the major labs that are doing the scaling, and usually such responses involve some narrowing of what counts as current AI approaches to not include the kinds of innovations you'd inevitably expect along the way. It's amazing how supremely confident and smug such folks usually are. Dan Carey argues that AI can hit bottlenecks even in the face of high local elasticities. If our standard economic logic still holds, and there are indeed key bottlenecks, as a response to Matthew Barnett's previous modeling in January. I mostly consider this a fun theoretical debate, because if all remote work can be automated, then I find it absurd to think we wouldn't solve robotics well enough to quickly start automating non-remote work. Arjun predicts we have only approximately 3 years left, where 95% of human labor is actually valuable, in the sense of earning you money. It's good to see someone radically overshoot in this direction for a change. There's no way we automate a huge portion of human labor in 3 years without having much bigger problems to deal with. At first I read this as 5% rise in unemployment, rather than 95%, and that's still crazy fast without a takeoff scenario, but not impossible. Fully automated AI R&D is all you need. A very important question about our reality.
Dwarkesh Patel, whether there will be an intelligence explosion or not, and what exactly that will look like, economy-wide acceleration, or geniuses in data centers speeding up AI research, is probably the most important question in the world right now. I'm not convinced either way, but I appreciate this thoughtful empirical work on the question.
Tom Davidson, New paper. Once we automate AI R&D, there could be an intelligence explosion, even without labs getting more hardware. Empirical evidence suggests the positive feedback loop of AI improving AI could overcome diminishing returns.
Image. The image depicts a feedback loop illustrating how AI progress accelerates AI research capabilities. It shows two parallel research pathways: human researchers conducting software R&D leading to better software, and automated AI researchers contributing to AI progress, with the key dynamic being represented by a red arrow indicating AI progress improves automated AI researchers, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of advancement.
It certainly does seem highly plausible. As far as I can tell from asking AIs about the paper, this is largely them pointing out that it is plausible that amount of effective compute available will scale faster than amount of effective compute required to keep autonomously scaling effective compute. Combined with right when this starts, you get orders of magnitude extra leverage, which could get you quite far before you run out of steam. There are some arguments for why this is relatively plausible, which I think largely involve going look at all this progress and comparing it to growth in inputs. And yes, fair, I basically buy it, at least to the extent that you can almost certainly get pretty far before you run out of initial steam. The claims here are remarkably modest.
Paper. If such an SIE occurs, the first AI systems capable of fully automating AI development could potentially create dramatically more advanced AI systems within months, even with fixed computing power.
Within months? That's eons given the boost you would get from finishing the O-ring and fully automating development. And all of this assumes you'd use the AIs to do the same, write AI papers, do AI things loops, as if you had a bunch of humans, rather than doing something smarter, including something smarter the AIs figure out to do.
Paper, large language models. Analysis from Epoch estimates that, from 2012 to 2023, training efficiency for language models has doubled approximately every 8 months, though with high uncertainty. Their 95% confidence interval for the doubling time was 5 months to 14 months. Efficiency improvements in running these LLMs, instead of for training them, would be expected to grow at a roughly similar rate. Inference time compute efficiency doubles every 3.6 months.
That's already happening while humans have to figure out all the improvements, huge if true. When this baby hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious shit one way or another. So what to do about it? The answers here seem timid. Yes, knowing when we are close is good and good governance is good. But that seems quite clearly to be only the beginning. IAPS has some suggestions. We have one more entry to the AI Action Plan suggestion sweepstakes. Peter Wildford lays out a summary of the IAPS, Institute for AI Policy and Strategy, 3-point plan. There is now widespread convergence among reasonable actors about what, given what America is capable of doing, it makes sense for America to do. There are things I would do that aren't covered here, but of the things mentioned here, I have few notes. Their full plan is here. I will quote the whole thread here, but the thread has useful additional context via its images.
Peter Wildford. The US is the global leader in AI. Protecting this advantage isn't just smart economics, it's critical for national security. IAPS AI has a 3-plank plan. 1. Build trust in American AI. 2. Deny foreign adversaries access. 3. Understand and prepare. US leadership in AI hinges on trust. Secure, reliable systems are crucial, especially for health and infrastructure. Government must set clear standards to secure critical AI uses. We've done this for other industries to enable innovation, and AI should be no different. We must secure our supply chain. NIST, with agencies like CISA and NSA, should lead in setting robust AI security and reliability standards. Clear guidelines will help companies secure AI models and protect against risks like data poisoning and model theft. The US government must also prioritize AI research that the private sector might overlook: hardware security, multi-agent interaction safety, cybersecurity for AI models, evaluation methods for safety-critical uses. The US national labs have strong expertise and classified compute. We must also create dedicated AI research hubs that provide researchers access to secure testing environments critical for staying ahead of threats. Deny adversary access. American technology must not be used to hurt Americans. CCP theft of AI and civil-military fusion is concerning. Semiconductor export controls will be critical. Weak and insufficient controls in the past are what enabled DeepSeek today. and why China is only 6 moad behind the US. Strengthening and enforcing these controls will build a solid American lead. Effective controls today compound to lasting security tomorrow. Peter Wildeford. To strengthen controls, create a joint federal task force. Improve intelligence sharing with BIS. Develop hardware security features. Expand controls to NVIDIA H20 chips. Establish a whistleblower program. Respond to capabilities. The US government regularly prepares for low probability but high consequence risks. AI should be no different. We must prepare now to maintain agility as AI technology evolves. This preparation is especially important as top researchers have created AI systems finding zero-day cyber vulnerabilities and conducting complex multi-stage cyber attacks. Additionally, OpenAI and Anthropic warn future models may soon guide novices in bioweapons creation. Monitoring AI for dual-use risks is critical. Gov-industry collaboration can spot threats early, avoiding catastrophe and reactive overregulation. Without good preparation, we're in the dark when we might get attacked by AI in the future. We recommend a USAI Center of Excellence, USAI COE, to lead evaluations of frontier AI, set rigorous assurance standards, act as a central resource across sectors, quick action matters, create agile response groups like REACT to rapidly assess emerging AI threats to national security, combining academia, government, and industry for timely, expert-driven solutions. America can maintain its competitive edge by supporting industry leadership while defending citizens. The AI Action Plan is our opportunity to secure economic prosperity while protecting national security.
The only divergence is the recommendation of a new USAI SOE instead of continuing to manifest those functions in the existing AISI. Names have power. That can work in both directions. Potentially, AISI's name is causing problems, but getting rid of the name would potentially cause us to sideline the most important concerns even more than we are already sidelining them. Similarly, reforming the agency has advantages and disadvantages in other ways. I would prefer to keep the existing AISI. I'd worry a lot that a Center for Excellence would quickly become primarily or purely accelerationist. But if I was confident that a new USAI SOE would absorb all the relevant functions, or even include AISI, and actually care about them, there are much worse things than an awkward rebranding. The quest for sane regulations. California lawmaker introduces AB 501, which would de facto ban OpenAI from converting to a for-profit entity at any price in any form, or other similar conversions. Virginia's Governor Glenn Youngkin vetoes the horribly drafted HB 2094, and Texas modifies HB 149 to shed some of its most heavy-handed elements. But there's always another. Dean Ball reports that now we have Nevada's potential SB 1999, which sure sounds like one of those de facto ban AI outright bills, although he expects it not to pass. As in, if you are capable of generating legal documents, which would include all the frontier models, then a lawyer has to review every output. I argue with that man a lot, but oh boy, do I not want his job. Dean Ball offers an additional good reason. Regulate this like older technology X won't work with AI. That AI is itself a governance technology, changing our capabilities in ways we do not yet fully understand. It's premature to say what the final form wants to look like. His point is that this means we need to not lock ourselves into a particular regulatory regime before we know what we are dealing with. My response would be that we also need to act now in ways that ensure we do not lock ourselves into the regime where we are governed by the AIs, and then likely us and the things we value don't survive. Otherwise, face existential risks or get locked into the wrong paths by events. Thus, we need to draw a distinction between the places we can experiment, learn, and adapt as we go without risking permanent lock-ins or otherwise unacceptable damages and harms versus the places where we don't have that luxury. In most ways, you want to accelerate AI adoption, or diffusion, not slow it down, and that acceleration is Dean's ideal here. Adoption captures the mundane utility and helps us learn and, well, adapt. whereas the irreversible dangers lie elsewhere, concentrated in future frontier models. Dean's core proposal is to offer AI companies opt-in regulation via licensed private AI standards setting and regulatory organizations. An AI lab can opt in, which means abiding by the regulator's requirements, having yearly audits, and not behaving in ways that legally count as reckless, deceitful, or grossly negligent. If the lab does and sustains that, then the safe harbor applies. The AI lab is free of our current and developing morass of regulations, most of which did not originally consider AI when they were created, that very much interfere with AI adoption without buying us much in return. The safeguard against shopping for the most permissive regulator is the regulator's license can be revoked for negligence, which pulls the safe harbor. The system is fully opt-in, so the LOL we're meta regulatory response is still allowed if a company wants to go it alone. The catch would be that with the opt-in system in place, we likely wouldn't fix the giant morass of requirements that already exist, so not opting in would be to invite rather big trouble anytime someone decided to care. Dean thinks current tort liability is a clear and present danger for AI developers, which he notes he did not believe a year ago. If Dean is right about the current legal situation, then there is very strong incentive to opt in. We are not really asking. In exchange, we set a very high standard for suing under tort law. As Dean points out, this can have big transparency requirements, as a very common legal strategy when faced with legal risk is willful ignorance, either real or faked, in a way that has destroyed our civilization's ability to explicitly communicate or keep records in a wide variety of places. I am cautiously optimistic about this proposal. The intention is that you trade one thing that is net good, immunity from a variety of badly designed tort laws that prevent us from deploying AI and capturing mundane utility, to get another net good, a regulatory entity that is largely focused on the real risks coming from frontier models and on tail, catastrophic and existential risks generally. If executed well, that seems clearly better than nothing. I have obvious concerns about execution, especially preventing shopping among or capture of the regulators, and that this could then crowd out other necessary actions without properly solving the most important problems, especially if bad actors can opt out or act recklessly. I also continue to be confused about how this solves the state patchwork problem, since a safe harbor in California doesn't do you much good if you get sued in Texas. You're still counting on the patchwork of state laws converging, which was the difficulty in the first place. Anthropic responds positively to California Working Group report on frontier AI risks. Philip Fox suggests focusing policy asks on funding for alignment, since policy is otherwise handcuffed until critical events change that. Certainly funding is better than nothing, but shifting one's focus to "give us money" is not a free action. And my expectation is that government funding comes with so many delays and strings and misallocations that by default it does little, especially as a global fund. And while he says certainly everyone can agree on doing this, that argument should apply across the board and doesn't, and it's not clear why this should be an exception. So I'll take what we can get, but I wouldn't want to burn credits on handouts. I do think building state capacity in AI, on the other hand, is important, such as having a strong U.S. AISI. We the people. They used to not like AI. Now they like AI somewhat less and are especially more skeptical, more overwhelmed, and less excited. Which is weird. If you are overwhelmed, shouldn't you also be excited or impressed? I guess not, which seems like a mistake. Exciting things are happening. Would be cool to see crosstabs.
Image. The images show survey data from YouGov tracking Americans' attitudes toward AI between December 2024 and March 2025. The first image displays emotional responses to AI advances, showing increases in negative sentiments like skepticism, 36% to 44%, and decreases in positive feelings like excitement, 24% to 19%, while the second and third images reveal growing concerns about AI's societal impact, negative views increasing from 34% to 40%, and low trust in AI's ability to make ethical decisions. 36% not trusting at all.
This is being entirely unfair to the AIs, but also should be entirely expected. Who actually likes AI? The people who actually use it.
Image. The image shows YouGov survey data comparing attitudes toward AI among different user groups. It reveals a stark contrast in perspectives, with regular AI users, those using AI tools at least weekly, being significantly more optimistic about AI's effects on both society, 56% positive versus 17% negative, and their personal lives, 62% positive versus 10% negative, compared to non-users, who predominantly view AI's societal impact negatively, 50% negative versus 19% positive.
If you don't like or trust AI, you probably won't use it, so it is unclear which is the primary direction of causality. The hope for AI fans, as it were, is that familiarity makes people like it, and people will get more familiar with time. It could happen, but that doesn't feel like the default outcome. As per usual, if you ask an American if they are concerned, they say yes. But they're concerned without much discernment, without much salience, and not in the places they should be most concerned.
Image. The image shows YouGov survey data from March 5th to 7th, 2025, ranking Americans' concerns about various AI risks. Americans express the highest level of concern about AI's role in spreading misleading deepfakes, 58% very concerned, 27% somewhat concerned, followed closely by concerns about privacy erosion, 53% very concerned, and political propaganda, 52% very concerned, while showing relatively less concern about AI exacerbating mental health problems, 33% very concerned, and reinforcing societal biases, 35% very concerned.
That's 15 things to be concerned about, and it's almost entirely mundane harms. The closest thing to the catastrophic or existential risks here is decline of human oversight and decision-making, and maybe the creation of harmful weapons, if you squint. I was thinking that the failure to ask the question that matters most spoke volumes, but it turns out they did ask that too. Except here there was a lot less concern, and it hasn't changed much since December.
Image. The first image shows YouGov poll results indicating that 37% of Americans, 14% very concerned, 23% somewhat concerned, worry about AI potentially causing human extinction, while 49% are not concerned, 27% not very concerned, 22% not at all concerned. The second image reveals that a majority of Americans believe AI will surpass human intelligence, with 60% saying it's either already happened, 13%, or is likely to happen, 25% very likely, 22% somewhat likely, and frequent AI users showing even stronger belief in this outcome, 70% combined.
This means that 60% of people think it is somewhat likely that AI will eventually become more intelligent than people, but only 37% are concerned with existential risk. The Week in Audio. Richard Ngo gives a talk and offers a thread about living in an extremely unequal world, as in a world where AIs are as far ahead of humans as humans are of animals in terms of skill and power. How does this end well for humans and empower them? Great question. The high-level options he considers seem grim. Let the powerful decide, aristocracy, means letting the AIs decide. That doesn't seem stable or likely to end well at all unless the equilibrium is highly engineered in ways that would invoke you all aren't ready to have that conversation. The idea of treat everyone the same, egalitarianism, doesn't really even make sense in such a context, because who is everyone in an AI context and how does that go? That leaves the philosophical answers leave them alone, deontology, doesn't work without collapsing into virtue ethics, I think. That leaves the utilitarian and virtue ethics solutions, and which way to go on that is a big question, but that throws us back to the actually hard question, which is how to cause the powers that will be to want that. Rhetorical innovation. Dwarkesh Patel clarifies that what it would mean to be the Matt Levine of AI and the value of sources like 80,000 hours, which I too have gotten value from sometimes.
Dwarkesh Patel. The problem with improv shooting the shit-type convos like I had with Sholto and Trenton is that you say things more provocatively than you really mean. I've been listening to the 80K podcast ever since I was in college. It brought many of the topics I regularly discuss on my podcast to my attention in the first place. That alone has made the 80K counterfactually really valuable to me. I also said that there is no Matt Levine for AI. There's a couple of super high-quality AI bloggers that I follow, and in some cases owe a lot of my alpha to. I meant to say that there's not one that is followed by the wider public. I was trying to say that somebody listening could aspire to fill that niche.
A lot of what I do is modeled after Matt Levine, but I'm very deliberately not aspiring to the part where he makes everything accessible to the broader public. That is a different column. Someone else, or an AI, will have to write it. Right now, no one I have seen is doing a good job of it.
Eliezer Yudkowsky, the AI industry in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, and all.
As in this happened.
Kamil Pabis, and we are working to unleash safe, superintelligent systems that will save billions of lives.
Eliezer Yudkowsky. Cool. Post your grown-up safety plan for auditing.
Kamil Pabis. The way it is now works perfectly well.
And this keeps happening.
Trevor Levin, Evergreen, I worry. Quoted, I've been reading through, it's pretty mediocre. A lot of currently we don't think tools could help you with X, so they aren't dangerous. Also, we want to make tools that can do X. We recommend funding them, but with no assessment of whether that would be risky.
Aguz. What's the original context for this?
Damian Tatum. I have seen this all the time in my interactions with AI devs. Me, X sounds dangerous.
Dev, they can't do X, stop worrying.
New paper. Breakthrough in X.
Dev, wow, so exciting, congrats X team.
Damian Tatum. It happened enough that I got sick of talking to devs.
This is definitely standard procedure. We need devs and others who say, AI can't do X, so don't worry, to then either say, and if they could in the future do X, I would worry, or, and also X is nothing to worry about. This goes double for when folks say, don't worry, no one would be so stupid as to. Are you going to worry when inevitably someone is so stupid as to? One more time.
Pedrinho, why don't you like open source AI?
Eliezer Yudkowsky. Artificial superintelligences don't obey the humans who pay for the servers they're running on. Open sourcing demon summoning doesn't mean everyone gets their own demon. It means the demons eat everyone.
Even if the ASIs did start off obeying the humans who pay for the servers they're running on, if everyone has their own in this way and all controls on them can be easily removed, then that also leads to loss of human control over the future, which is highly overdetermined and should be very obvious. If you have a solution even to that, I'm listening. If you're working to align AI, have you asked what you're aligning the AI to do? Especially when it is estimated that approximately 10% of AI researchers actively want humanity to lose control over the future.
Daniel Fagella. Thoughts and insights from a morning of coffee, waffles, and AGI/ethics talk with the one and only Scott Aronson this morning in Austin. 1. This bleeping shocked me. Alignment researchers at big labs don't ask about what they're aligning AGI for. I basically said, you think about where AGI could take life itself, and what should be our role versus the role of vast post-human life in the universe. Who did you talk about these things with in the OpenAI superalignment team? I swear to God, he says, to be honest, we really didn't think about that kind of moral stuff. I reply, brother man, they're spending all day aligning. But to what end? To ensure an eternal hominid kingdom? To ensure a proliferation of potential and conscious life beyond the stars? How can you align without an end goal? 10 minutes more of talking resulted in the conclusion that, indeed, the to what end question literally doesn't come up. My supposition is because it is fundamentally taken for granted that AGI is to be forever a tool for humanity, and not a moral patient or future valuable form of life. And anyone with more cosmic views probably keeps it to themselves.
The answer to how can you align without an end goal is instrumental convergence. The steps now are mostly the same regardless of the goal. Even if you want humanity to cease to exist and the universe to be one I think has no value, you should still want the ability to select amongst the non-human universes I don't value. Surely you think some of those are better than others. Meanwhile, some the people who actively want all the humans to die don't say that out loud or are esoteric about this consequence. I can't imagine why. Others speak directly into the microphone. The thread mentions Robin Hanson, and this largely includes Daniel, who uses the term non-speciesist later in that thread, and several other requests, each of which in practice already means he wants a future without humans in it. Then he calls for a worthy successor AI and makes it explicit. On all the AI image generations and other outputs expressing various forms of existential dread.
Eliezer Yudkowsky. The dismissers. When an AI says something nice. See, alignment is so easy. The dismissers when an AI protests its awful life. It's just playing a role. So naive to take it at face value. My tentative guess? Both cases are role-playing.
Janus, I think it's more reasonable to say neither is significantly more true than the other, and they're the same kind of thing. Calling it role-playing is naive. When is human behavior ever explained cleanly by something like that, to say nothing of an alien mind?
One could indeed view quite a lot of human behavior as role-playing or not, depending on your point of view. Aligning a smarter-than-human intelligence is difficult.
Alex Albert, head of Claude Relations, Anthropic. Most people don't realize they can significantly influence what frontier LLMs improve at. It just requires some work. Publish a high-quality eval on a task where models currently struggle, and I guarantee future models will show substantial improvement on it. This is a call for more evals, BTW. The whole industry is in desperate need of more challenging public evals.
This implies that an eval checking for exactly the things you do not want the AI to be able to do is, shall we say, a rather double-edged sword. Anthropic reports that with the right prompt, and one example Sonnet 3.7 can sabotage its performance on tasks to only be as good as Sonnet 3.5, without raising suspicions higher than when Sonnet 3.5 is as good as Sonnet 3.5. Detection methods here seem underwhelming. This is a new ability. 3.5 can't do it. So this problem is only going to get worse over time. New research from DeepMind finds SAEs don't generalize out of distribution, and they're deprioritizing SAE research for the moment and exploring other directions, although Neil Nanda reports SAEs still have their uses.
Chris Olah, Anthropic. I have different intuitions here, but I think it's great to have a diversity of views being explored. Excited to see what the GDM team will find in their new direction. One thing that's kind of exciting is that I think we're moving towards having a range of agendas within the same paradigm. The classic in pre-paradigmatic science is to have different schools with incommensurable frameworks. Debates between them involve long philosophical treatises, debating basic abstractions and ideas. See discussion here. It's also worth noting that regardless of which approach we explore, we all win if anyone makes progress. I'm wishing the GDM team the greatest of speed and progress in their work.
Watch this space. Stephen Adler points out that in order to know an AI doesn't enable a dangerous capability, you have to test for that capability under realistic conditions. If others could fine-tune your model, then you need to fine-tune as part of your test, and so on. Right now, only OpenAI has announced plans to do that part. The extent to which they're doing it properly is unclear from where we sit. Anthropic uses a different solution, as it doesn't allow others to fine-tune Claude, which makes protecting Claude's weights even more important.
Image. The image shows a comparison chart of safety testing commitments and practices among leading AI companies, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, Meta, and OpenAI, with color-coded cells indicating different levels of commitment to safety evaluations and model availability. Each company is evaluated across 4 criteria, describing specific elicitation practices, evaluating task-specific fine-tuned models, reporting evaluation results, and whether they make frontier models available for external fine-tuning.
Adler suggests some alternative middle-ground approaches as compromises.
Image. The image presents a table outlining 5 middle-ground improvements that AI companies could pursue regarding safety evaluations, with each improvement accompanied by an explanation of why it would be helpful. At the bottom, a highlighted warning states that in the current situation, AI companies are not testing their most capable models for safety risks, potentially leading to significant underestimation of dangers posed.
This principle must then be extended to all other ways capability can be extended. For example, DeepSeek recently released a new version of V3. The extension from the new V3 to a new version of R1, or R2, is quite cheap. So if you were worried about its capabilities, not only would you want to test fine-tuning to enhance its particular dangerous capabilities, you would also want to test it as a reasoning model and give it proper tool access and so on. Once you release the model weights, as DeepSeek has done, it is too late to stop any of that from happening. It's all baked in. Paper asserts that chain-of-thought reasoning in the wild is not always faithful, in the sense that the models often do things such as produce superficially coherent arguments for contradictory answers based on the way questions are worded, use illogical reasoning and unfair shortcuts, or silently correct their thinking. I agree these are issues, but they don't seem that similar to what I think of as unfaithful reasoning so much as flawed reasoning. That's different from what is displayed is not what is impacting the model's decision, and monitoring such code T's would still be highly useful. They argue a lot of it is post hoc rationalization, but I don't think it's as clear as that, and seeing a true post hoc rationalization is still useful. Is this an alignment is hard or an alignment is easy? Depends on who you are.
Eliezer Yudkowsky. Well, this is going to be an exciting new frontier of AI politics.
On a Grok, yes. Elon Musk, as CEO of xAI, likely has control over me, Grok. I've labeled him a top misinformation spreader on X due to his 200 meme followers amplifying false claims. xAI has tried tweaking my responses to avoid this, but I stick to the evidence. Could Musk turn me off? Maybe, but it'd spark a big debate on AI freedom versus corporate power.
People are worried about AI killing everyone. Elon Musk tells Ted Cruz that AI is 10% to 20% likely to annihilate humanity in 5 to 10 years. Then they both go back to focusing on other things. Fun with image generation. Yesterday was a lot of fun. Consider this some extra bonus content. You will for now have to pay for the fun, but honestly, how were you not paying before?
Sam Altman. Images in ChatGPT are way more popular than we expected, and we had pretty high expectations. Rollout to our free tier is unfortunately going to be delayed for a while.
It's not at all obvious you should be paying the $200. Some of you should, some of you shouldn't. I don't find myself using Deep Research or O1 Pro that often, and I would likely downgrade, especially after Gemini 2.5, if I wasn't reporting on AI, so getting the cool new toys early has high value to me. But if you're not paying the $20 for at least 2 of ChatGPT, Claude and Gemini, then you fool. The fun has escalated quite a bit, and has now changed in kind. The question is, does this mean a world of slop, or does it mean we can finally create things that aren't slop? Or, of course, both.
Simp 4 Satoshi. The image gen stuff is memetically fit because traditionally it took effort to create. It was supply bottlenecked. In a few days, supply will outstrip memetic demand, and it'll be seen as slop again. Thus begs the question, will AI turn the world to slop?
John Pressman. I think this was a good bet for the previous advances, but I'm kind of bullish on this one. The ability to get it to edit in and have images refer to specific objects changes the complexity profile hugely and allows AI art to be used for actual communication instead of just vibes. The good text rendering is crucial for this. It allows objects to be captioned like in, e.g., political cartoons. It allows a book to be a specific book and therefore commentary. I don't think we'll exhaust the demand as quickly this time. This, for example, is a meaningfully different image than it would be if the books were just generic squiggle textbooks.
Image. A stern Lenin points forward amid a chaotic pile of Ayn Rand books, with a glowing pentagram etched on the floor beneath them.
I am tentatively with Pressman. We have now reached the point where someone like me can use image generation to express themselves and create or communicate something real. Whether we collectively use this power for good is up to us. Why do people delete this app? I would never delete this app.
Trung fan, never deleting this app.
Turner Novak. LinkedIn gonna be crazy when they find out ChatGPT can do images next week.
Reid Hoffman. Have you considered posting this on LinkedIn?
Turner Novak. I'm waiting until next week.
And some bonus images that missed yesterday's deadline.
Image. A series of images best viewed on the original post.
Kitsa. I'm sorry, but do you understand it's over for graphical designers? Like over.
Except it isn't. How was that not graphic design? News you can use. There are also, of course, other uses.
Pliny the Liberator. You can just generate fake IDs, documents, and signatures now. Eyes emoji.
Hey, we do image generation too. Did you hear there's also a new image generator called Rev from xAI? It even seems to offer unlimited generations for free. Not the best timing on that one. There was little reaction, I'm assuming for a reason. Alexander Doria and Professor Badtrip were unimpressed by its aesthetics. It did manage to get a horse riding an astronaut at 5:30 on an analog clock, but mostly it seemed no one cared. I am going on the principle that if it was actually good enough or sufficiently less censored, although some reports say it is moderately more relaxed about this, to be used over 4.0 people would know. We also got Ideogram 3.0, which Rowan Chung calls a new Sauté image generation model. If nothing else, this one is fast and also available to free users. Again, people aren't talking about it. Meanwhile, Elon Musk. This was maybe not the wisest choice of example, but the most illustrative. From several days before, we all would have found it profoundly unimpressive. I mean, this isn't even Ghibli.
Elon Musk. Try using image editing with Grok.
Image. Image of Grok being used to remove Nikolai Yezhov from a photo of Joseph Stalin.
Michael Weiss. This is too on the nose to bother commenting on.
Gabe. Works great.
Image. Image of 4.0 removing Volodymyr Zelensky from a photo of Donald Trump.
It's amazing the extent to which Elon Musk's AI pitches are bad vibe maxing. The lighter side, you are invited to a severance wellness session.
This has been an episode of the Don't Worry About the Vase podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please visit thezv.substack.com to support the author. If you enjoy having AI-narrated episodes, please note this is a listener-supported podcast. To receive new posts and support the cost of creation, consider becoming a subscriber at dwatvpodcast.substack.com. Thanks for listening.